Hello, welcome to the GHPC dev stream for the month of August. I am Josh Pasuito, aka Action Scripter. I am joined here by Kavi, and we are ready to go. Good to see everybody. We've got a lot of exciting stuff that we have been working on. We had a little teaser up front there on the video. I don't know if you guys could tell what was different. That's showing one of the changes that we're working on. You may have noticed the trees and various vegetation looked a little better than it usually does. No diagonal shadows, no weirdness going on, some wind animation. That's one of the things we've been able to do recently in the dev branch, improving that vegetation. That's still in progress. We're trying to iron out a few issues with it, so we're not pushing it up today. We're going to take some time and make sure it's stable for you guys. But we wanted to show what we had so far because it looks cool, and that's what the stream is all about. So, there's other stuff to go over. First of all, it's been 2 months since the last stream. We have these about every 2 months, and in that time we've been doing a lot of stuff. This time it's not extremely visual. In the old days we would make a couple of new vehicles, or we'd work on a new map or something. Now we're approaching the point in the game's development when we have a lot of vehicles done, or enough at least, and we really need the gameplay to be more solid. So as a step toward that goal, we revamped our mission system during the last patch cycle. What that does is, under the hood, the systems that control mission loading and data serialization have been improved, so we can do more stuff in missions. We can have vehicles with more custom attributes. We can put more interesting scenarios in. And one of the things that we have been able to accomplish with that in our testing so far is putting some variation in missions so that they're not always the same. As you know, if you've played the demo, we have this list of instant action scenarios, and they always play the same. If you've played it once, you've memorized where everything is, then it's always like that. That will no longer be the case. There will be some flexibility in what you can encounter and how it can go. So that's very exciting. That's the first little micro step toward making a full game experience. And eventually, as we've mentioned in some of our communications, we are trying to have a campaign, a career mode. So this randomized mission feature will be coming in the next patch, and it's kind of a little glimpse into that future, where it's not just a tech demo with a couple of fixed scenarios, but it's actually a game where things change and you don't know exactly what you're getting. So that's fun. We've got some new mission work happening right now. Not gonna show it on stream, don't want to spoil anything, but we have new content to go along. That's not just randomizing old missions, there's going to be some other stuff. We've got quite a few people in here. Please tell me random mission generator. No, not a full random generator yet. How this works, it's a structured random right now, where we have certain limits to what can change, and we define those in the mission design phase. And then when you play the mission, you don't know exactly what you're getting, and you're going to have to play it several times to understand, okay, here's what can go on in this mission, and here's the different variations. It should feel pretty fresh, though, for a while. And like I said, this is a first step. This is not the limit to what we're doing with the system. Now that we've done that hard work, that conversion of the mission system, we can actually add a lot more than just randomizing a couple of elements. We can do campaign mode stuff where things that you do in missions affect other missions. We can do resources, we can do support mechanisms like air support, artillery, that kind of thing. So the possibilities are wide open now. We were limited before by the way we had it configured behind the scenes, and now it's no longer the case. So that's very exciting. I saw people asking earlier about IFVs, the Bradley and the BMP. we made a note in Discord and in Patreon about this, but I'll say it again for the stream. Those are still in progress, but they're not priority right now. Because if we keep just adding vehicles, the game never gets finished. So we are working on those a little, slowly. They'll eventually be in because we need IFVs. But we're working on the systems that will allow us to do better things with those vehicles, including infantry, better mission stuff. So when you do get IFVs, they will be in a much richer game environment than what we have right now. It'll be more than just funny tanks that you can play new missions with, It'll be something better.
Right now, we've got MBTs fighting against each other, and realistically the IFVs are there to kind of look nicer and hopefully block a shot or two when they kind of run into view. But with the mission system work that Josh has been focused on for the last month, I want to say, some change, now we can do some really cool objectives as we start prototyping those and getting more feedback from the Discord, from our patrons, like what is fun, what is not fun. That's going to be really helpful in the future as we start getting these out there.
Yes, exactly. I know we've shown some of this stuff, but just to illustrate what I'm talking about, I'm going to pull up a couple of 3D models while I'm describing it. So we have goals for this game that are beyond just vehicle combat. It's our opinion that these vehicles make the most sense in the context they were designed for, which is a combined arms battlefield with infantry, air support, various things going on. A tank wasn't meant to just fight other tanks in an isolated environment and that's its whole mission. There are other things that it needs to contend with. And so, in order to create that environment, we have created infantry models. Let me pull up some stuff here. And trying to find the assets is always fun.
Notes, or set those notes. Let's focus on the stuff that really matters. In-game store with pink camos for $20.
Yeah, of course. That's why we're making the whole game, right? Just to sell those premiums.
Well, I replied anime cat girl cruise. So.
Okay, so for example, these are the Soviet troops. The USSR forces are not in the demo yet. We're working on their vehicles on the side, and they'll be added in when they're ready. But in the meantime, this is an example. Infantry. These guys will be doing their thing during the missions. You might have to protect them. You might have to drive them to an objective if you're an APC driver or an IFV. And there will be missions where the only way to actually win the mission is to deliver troops and help them take an objective, because really that's what matters, right? In actual war is you got to get your guys boots on the ground in the objective. It's not just I destroyed a dozen tanks and now I win. Sometimes blunting an armored attack is the goal, but more often infantry are the meat of the fight. So this is an element that will be coming to GHPC soon as we finish up the systems that we need to have these guys in the demo. And this is all, like I was saying, we're in this new phase where we're adding new features now. We'd have to do a lot of groundwork. You'll get patches where nothing really flashy changes. Like, for example, this upcoming one, we're trying to get the new vegetation ready, but if it's not ready, then we'll just have the slightly more dynamic missions, some bug fixes, and then that's on to the next cycle. Because we're working toward these long-term goals now. Not every patch is going to be, we added a whole new tank, we added a new whatever, something you've never seen before. We spent the last 2 months reworking code and doing doing a lot of work that will pay off in the longer term. So you're going to see these updates sometimes where it doesn't feel like a lot changed, but we've been working hard the whole time to work towards something in the future.
Yeah, and that'll be on us to communicate, like, in those change logs and, if possible, in more frequent streams, like, what we're doing and how that's getting us more towards our goals.
Yes.
Because, like, we can't keep doing the flashy route. If we had more people consistently working and we could add those features, I'm sure we'd throw some stuff in here, but we have to focus on the core priorities right now. Especially getting us towards, even though the roadmap on the Discord is more or less accurate, getting us towards that late end of the year goal of the vertical slice out, getting it into people's hands, getting more feedback. That's what we want to progress towards.
Yep. And I should note, while we're talking about infantry, they're not just going to be set dressing or little harmless automatons. They will be able to engage you as well. If you're in a light armored vehicle or whatever, they get a side shot maybe. There will be RPGs, ATGMs. So the only difference is that you won't be able to directly control infantry. You won't be able to first-person shooter it. You won't be like playing an RTS unless we get really detailed command systems, which I don't know exactly how detailed that will be. But they will be effective and dangerous, so you will have to watch out for them. So this should be pretty fun. I'm actually really excited for infantry AT weapons and how that will change the shape of the battles.
I.e., if you make a stupid decision, overextend, the bots will try and ice you. I mean, yeah.
That's true.
You gotta make calculated decisions on some of these things. None of this works in a vacuum.
Yep. Let's see what else we've got. I don't want to show too much because we've gotten this habit in the past of being really excited about everything we're working on and showing it off early, and then people are wondering where it is forever after that. Like, we showed the Bradley last year, and it's still not in the demo because we've had more important things going on, and that was, we jumped the gun on that one. So I think if we show anything wild, it's going to be for the patrons only, maybe after. But in the meantime, I'm going to try to find some tamer things to show.
That being said, Harry's work on the Bradley at the time was so wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
To not show that off was just...
Yeah, it's great work.
Gotta give the Wallaby his due, you know?
The Wallaby. Let's see. So, yeah, leaks are going to be in shorter supply than you might be used to because priorities are changing now. We're trying to mature the demo so that it's more complete by the end of this year. That's been our goal, and the roadmap kind of reflects that. The roadmap also discusses multiplayer, if I'm not mistaken, unless I've edited that. That's going to depend on how much coding help we can locate. We've got this increased budget on Patreon. The money has gone up a little, which is really fantastic, and thank you all, by the way. Everyone who's supporting the project. You are literally making this possible. But with that money, we've been able to hire people to help out who have skill sets that are useful. For example, the new vegetation stuff. We've got a vegetation artist working with us now. Those are all custom assets that were made for us, as opposed to the placeholders we used before. So that's an example of how that money gets applied. Another thing that we want to do with that is find somebody to do multiplayer coding, because I'm the only full-time coder right now, and it's a lot for one person. I'd have to drop everything else to do multiplayer, and I don't want to do that. So if we can locate the help that we need, we can move that timeline ahead at a good rate. But either way, we're going as fast as we can, and the more funding we get, the more stuff we can do. So I'll do my obligatory, if you want to see the game succeed and you want to support the project, patreon.com/gunnerheatpc. That is all of our funding. We don't have a secret investor. There's no publisher. It's just Patreon. And we're doing everything that we're doing on a few $1,000s a month. I think that's pretty wild that we've been able to do that. And I hope we can keep doing it. So if you're able to, we'd really appreciate that contribution.
Definitely. Like you said, it's the only thing that kind of sustains the game. Because large games need money to keep going. Who'da thunk it?
Yeah. It's expensive to make a game.
Yeah.
More than I anticipated. Sometimes I daydream about what if we were making a simpler kind of game. Almost anything else would have been easier. A first-person shooter, an arcade platformer, anything. We'd be done 3 times over. But we're making what we're making. Someone has to do it.
Yeah, if we just decided to stop right now and said, like, it's going to be a very base, bare-bones, MBT kind of dueling system, all we'd have to do is make new tanks and release them every couple months and be like, cool, here you go, and add little feature bits here and there. But what we're going for right now is just so much better, but also broader in scope.
Yeah. And then we picked a map with a bunch of forests and wide open sightlines to start with, which is difficult to optimize. So we're tackling all the hard problems first. Good job us. At least when we do a desert thing later, it'll be easy.
Right.
Somebody asked, let's see, Scarlet Crusader asked what the monetization plan is going to be like IL2, or is it going to be one time for all the upcoming content? It's hard to give a permanent answer right now because we haven't even released yet. But my intuition is that we will provide a nice solid set of content in the base game, and then as we continue working on things, we could release substantial expansion packs. I'm not talking about piddly little DLC or loot box kind of stuff. I mean full packs, like you get an entire new theater and the vehicles that go with it and the factions that go with it. And we're trying to base our philosophy for development on kind of the classic sim game ethos, which is like you get the game, and then if they make more stuff, you get that stuff, and you don't pay extravagant rates for it. You pay a reasonable price, and you just get the content. That's kind of our guiding principle. I can't put hard numbers on that right now because it's too early, but just know that that's the philosophy we're going for. It's not going to be freemium, that kind of stuff. For now, our only confirmed theater is the Fulda region, or CENTAG if you use the NATO terminology, around 1985. So Central Germany. It's going to be US, USSR, and East and West German forces. If you're wondering about UK or any of the Nordic countries or anything like that, those could come later if we decide to make a theater that would include them. For the purposes of the initial demo, it's just those 4 that I listed, and just in that one area of Germany. That's a nice limited scope for us to focus on. It gives us a good vehicle set that can be translated into other theaters later and built off of. And it's a nice intro to what we're trying to do with Gunner Heat PC, the game.
When it comes to things like upgrading vehicles, tanks for like newer systems, armor packages, what is kind of the flow we're going to take with that? What's the idea behind that right now, if we have one?
So upgrading, do you mean upgrading as a game mechanic or in development?
A or B. The example given was like BMP2 to BMP2M.
Yeah, so that's not going to be the way that you're probably thinking of it, which is kind of a War Thunder style upgraded as part of the game thing. I don't see a convenient place for that to slot into what we're doing, because we're doing very scenario focused stuff. We're trying to have this system where we're depicting a conflict, and the vehicles and mechanisms that we put in the game are in service of depicting the conflict. So it wouldn't necessarily make sense to just have a way to magically upgrade your vehicles mid-conflict, unless that fits the timeline or the campaign story in some way. It's not going to be like in certain other games where you have your vehicle and it starts off with a basic package, and then as you play you click a button and then you get the upgraded armor and you get the upgraded gun or whatever. That's not going to be how it works. And vehicles won't be nerfed when you start with them, so you're not gonna have an Abrams and then find out that you have no thermal sights and you have to unlock them by grinding. This is a completely different kind of thing. If there is progression, it's gonna be in softer ways and make more sense. And we'll get into the details about that when we have more of those systems in place, when we have campaign stuff. For now, just know that our philosophy is going to look a lot different from what you might have experienced in free-to-play games.
Can you speak to your plans for Blue Force support, or what kind of vehicles, ground or air, will be player or AI controlled? I think we can be general.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Commando. We are going to have the ground vehicles be playable. Specifically, armored vehicles and probably transports. Like trucks could make an appearance if we can find a good way to make their gameplay interesting. Aircraft will not be playable. They'll be AI only. Infantry will not be playable. They'll be AI only. Because the point of the game is it's about modern armored fighting vehicles, but all the other stuff is being added so that, like I said, the context that the vehicles are designed for can be present in the game. We want a game about tanks, essentially, but tanks don't exist in a vacuum. They shine the best when the environment that makes their role come to light is present, when they are the big guns on a larger battlefield. So yeah, you won't be able to control everything that you see in the game, but you will be able to drive a lot of vehicles, ground vehicles, and that should still be fun.
Someone made mention at the start, when you were showing this video at the start, new vegetation, and you noted as much just in the last 20 minutes when we were talking. From the stills that we're showing off here, what's the biggest difference, would you say, that people can lock eyes on?
What's the biggest difference? It's all in the way the trees are right now, trees and grass. So it depends which shot you see. I have a variety here, but notice there's more detail in the grass. Sometimes in some of these shots you can see the wind blowing stuff around, like the crops. The tree leaves are better lit. The distant ones don't have weird shadows or artifacts anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a little smoother and a little more detailed, and much more went into it than it might look, because when you see the finished product, you're like, okay, it looks like trees. It looked like trees before, and it looks like trees again. But everything about them is just a little nicer than it used to be, and that involved a lot of effort.
Mm-hmm.
We were at the limits of our previous setup for that. Even with its flaws, that was about the best we could do. This one, we've unlocked another level of visual effects, and it's a shame that our game features such large maps, because ideally this kind of system could be pushed even further. We could have crazy subsurface lighting and all this, the stuff that you might see in games that have smaller levels, first-person shooters and stuff. But with the amount of rendering power that it takes to do that, once you start having thousands of trees visible at a time and having to handle all of this stuff and memory stream it, you really cut down what you can actually show with the level of visual fidelity. So we've pushed it to another level, and we'll continue to see what we can squeeze out of it. Are we going to see IED cars?
I saw that too.
This is a question. I'll refer back to what I said about how we're adding vehicles. Our philosophy for this game is we are depicting conflicts, and everything that we add fits that theater or that conflict. So if we one day make a campaign that's based on a war, real or hypothetical, that would involve IEDs, then IEDs could make an appearance. But consider, one, the game is about modern mounted combat, armored vehicles, and two, the only theater that we're working on right now is Germany, 1985, specifically Central Germany. So I don't see a lot of possibility of IED cars showing up in that.
In the immediate future, at least.
Yeah. When you ask yourself, or even before you ask us, are you going to add this vehicle? Just think about, does that vehicle fit in Germany in 1985 in the Fulda region? If the answer is no, then we're not adding that vehicle right now. I know this might sound simple, but we get this question so much all the time. Maybe every day people ask about a vehicle being added or not.
Everyone has their particular vehicle that they want to stand for, and I get that. And we'd love to put all of them in if it made sense in the context, or they weren't prototypes.
Let's see. Lethality asks, what kind of computer specs will be required for smooth gameplay at high settings? A mode like War Thunder ULQ? Probably not. ULQ is a special consideration that they've made because they want as many people as possible to be able to play the game. They have a PvP setup. It needs high population. We do not have that same priority, and we're working with a modern lighting systems, and you're gonna have a computer that has a little bit of power, not ridiculous, and we optimize as we go. The performance of the game continues to improve over time, but especially right now while it's still being built, not everything is going to be perfectly optimized. We're making things, we add stuff, we optimize in kind of waves. So don't expect to play this on a laptop or on a computer that hasn't been upgraded in 8 years. You're going to have at least a reasonably strong gaming system. I develop on a 1070 Ti, and that does pretty well. I've seen people use cards that are weaker than that, and it's fine. But don't expect integrated graphics or a laptop to run this properly. That's just the way it is. We're making a simulation game, and there's a lot going on. You need power to drive that.
Yeah. Once we get, the vertical slice out, and we kind of set that as a snapshot or a stepping stone as to what we want the final game to look like, even though we're doing these optimizations, we get to decide, okay, where can we squeeze the most power out of? If we can get more power out of GPUs, great. If we can lessen the need to push the CPU too far, awesome. We'll be optimizing that as we go, and then once we have the vertical slice set in stone, we'll know what are the core features that we really need to optimize.
Mm-hmm.
That'll give us a better idea going forward of, okay, cool, here are the minimum specs. Here's the system that we're targeting right now.
Yes. I know some people have been able to run it on a laptop. If you have a good laptop, you can do it. But as a rule of thumb, if you have a laptop and the game doesn't run well for you, uh, it's not a surprise, I guess.
It's something we've been answering, like, what are the minimum specs to run on my particular 3-year-old machine or something? The answer that we typically give is, we're still optimizing, but honestly, the demo's free. Try it. Give it a go, and you tell us if it's giving you an issue at the moment.
That's true. It's a less than 2 gigs of a download, I think, still compressed, like 1.7 gigs, no money. You can download it and try it yourself, and then you tell us if your computer can run it.
Yeah.
So let's see. There were some interesting questions here. Will T-55A and M1IP tank commanders ever open their hatch to fire the Rift machine gun, and our working hatch is coming soon for the M1IP? M1IP, we need to sort out some animation stuff for it because the hatches have these hinge systems and partial modes of deployment. They have the protected mode where you just have your eyes above the cupola. So there's more systems we need to sort out for that. But as far as being able to use the Rift machine guns, that is planned for soon-ish. I don't know exactly which month it'll land in, but that's something that we want to do and we're planning on doing. Because that is important. Those are an entire weapon system that you can use against aircraft or light targets that's not currently in yet. Will enemy and friendly artillery assets be present on the battlefield, and will they support the fight? Yeah. We haven't talked about artillery much because honestly, when you say artillery, people think of World of Tanks and all the headache that comes with that. That's not how artillery is going to work in our game. I won't say a lot about it right now. We still have to sort out exactly in what situations it shows up and how much of a thing it is, but there will likely be artillery. Let's see. Will a crew that bailed out of a tank become infantry? I don't know. We want to show them eventually, but that's a lot of animation work. And then you have these entities running around the battlefield afterward. You're going to have to wait and see. That's something that not even I can answer right now. That's kind of late phase polished stuff.
It's an interesting question, though.
Yeah. That's one of those things where I'd like to have it all be full fidelity and like you can see every person that jumps out of the tank.
Right.
But we'll see what we have time for. Don't forget we're a small team still. Like we have all these high ambitions making this simulation game, but we are not a big studio with big resources. We can do what we can, and then the rest is later maybe. Let's see. Will we see action attempt Valley push mission again? You already got a nice clip of me failing that
you
BTR.
You did so well. You did so. I think you should. Or do you want the master gunner to tell you?
No, don't touch. Don't you dare. Could you link a source to a list of all vehicles in CENTAG? I don't have one on hand. I'm sure there are wiki articles or something somewhere. I wonder if maybe we could find one and pin one somewhere.
We might, but one of the fun bits to that question is we are getting a lot of research from folks with active and past military experience to give us that information, and they have cited sources with that, so we don't just like make a guess on these, vehicle choices and items like that. So it's not done in like we throw a dart at a board and cool, we have something. Compiling that list though is not something that leaking out too early, because we wouldn't want to give a plan of like, it's all of these vehicles basically.
Yeah, in general we avoid being too explicit about plans because plans do change. The overarching goals and principles do not change, but if we say, hey, we're feeling good about this vehicle, it's going to come next month, and then we hit a snag in development. Let's say, for example, let's say we had promised the M901 ITV was going to be completed soon, the one that's in the firing range, that needs an animation setup for reloading. It needs to turn the turret around, collapse it, tilt it up, and then someone needs to push the tow missiles in from the hull. Or was that an automatic system? I can't remember. Anyway, it has a whole rig that needs to be coded and tested. And we decided that that's not important right now. We're going to work on other things first. So if we had promised that in the past, people would be like, where is the ITV? Every time a patch comes out, why is there no ITV? But instead, we kept that to ourselves and said, okay, we'll add it if we have time. Now nobody's disappointed because we never promised it, you know? So we have to be careful to hit that balance of being open with our plans, because this is all community funded and we've chosen to be very direct about what we're doing, but not too direct. We got to keep a little bit of space for ourselves to maneuver in, and that it works out better. It's smoother in the long run.
Yeah, here's a question that I want to know the answer to. So, Dreadfed Gaming, me and you are on the same page. Will there be gore? I want gore. How much gore will there be if there will be gore?
We've done some tests that I'm not going to show, because again, this is like, I don't know exactly how much we're going to get away with, but let's summarize this way. Tank combat is nasty in real life. It's gnarly. If you're in the tank and the tank is penetrated, it's a bad time. Do not intend to shy away from showing that. In the end, this is a game about war, and war is brutal, and we're not going to try to clean it up and dress it up. Bad language, gore, the whole thing. It's all going to be in there. If that gets us a steep rating, M rated, whatever, 17 plus, then so be it.
M rating and banned in Australia. That's the goal.
Yep.
Or
I'm
Harry.
sure people can find ways to get it. What else? I saw someone ask earlier what our sources were and if they could see what manual we were using for something or other. I think they said T90, which is confusing because there's no T90 in this demo. Maybe they meant the old one from 2019. But anyway, I want to address sources briefly, because there's been a bit of a kerfuffle in a certain other tank game with regard to classified sources. So here's what we've always said, and this is still our rule, and this applies forever. We do not accept classified sources. Everything that we use has to be public info. When there are gaps in that knowledge, when we can't find out actual data, we take our best guess. And if you want to see more accurate info, you're going to have to find info that's public. Don't send us stuff that we're not allowed to have. And if you want to see a source for something, like you're wondering how we knew what a fire control system or a gun sight reticle was like, we typically don't give those out either. We treat sources seriously and we weigh them against each other and against common sense, but we don't catalog or release them. And it's my opinion that the specific data, like the exact number of millimeters in this armor piece or whatever, doesn't actually matter at the end of the day, because this isn't a tank dueling game. It doesn't matter if the extra 50 millimeters were there or not in the long run. You have this combined arms environment. You have tanks, APCs, infantry, air support. A tank is a tank with a certain amount of variation and differences to it. But if the Abrams turret was off by 50 or 100 millimeters of chemical protection, let's say, you're not going to feel that from the moment to moment gameplay. So all this to say, we do the best we can with public sources. If you can find a better conclusion from public sources and you want to articulate that to us and provide info, go ahead and use our feedback page. It's on GitHub. There's a link to it in the Discord. Maybe I can you link that in the chat, actually?
Will do.
Kavi? All right. We have a feedback page. It's for bug reporting and info if you feel that you can prove that something is not performing the way it should be with public data. And we will address that if it's reasonable to do so, but we're not going to obsess over small details. We're not going to try to find classified info. This is just a game in the end. It doesn't have to be completely accurate. It has to just be close enough that you feel like it's real. Do y'all have a Patreon? Yes, we do.
Dropping the link now.
Patreon.com/GunnerHeatPC. That is the only source of funding for this game. It's how the game is getting made. You can support it if you're able to. That would be very much appreciated, because that directly translates into what we're able to improve. For example, the new vegetation stuff, like I said earlier, that's all Patreon funded. We've got new coders that we're onboarding to help out with stuff. That's Patreon funded. We're looking at getting our effects, finding an effects artist, Patreon funded. We're getting another sound engineer set up, Patreon funded again. You get the picture. Everything.
Really quick, because I just noticed the donation item changed in the bar below. The Scarlet Crusader, thank you for the $5 through Twitch.
Oh yeah, we really appreciate that. The Twitch donations actually do go to us as well, just like Patreon. So actually, I guess there's 3 ways to support the project monetarily. Patreon is the main one that we push because it's a subscription thing, so it's more consistent, and also you get benefits from it, which is access to the unrestricted demo where you can play the Abrams and the T-72 and whatever else we add. But if you just want to give money and you don't care about being on Patreon, there's a PayPal link in the main menu of the game. Pardon me. And then the Twitch donations also function. They go to us. So those are the 3 sources: Patreon, PayPal, and Twitch. And all of those go directly into the project budget.
Crusader, if you had a question, because I did see your message earlier, if we missed your donation question, feel free to DM one of us, and we will talk about it on stream. But,
yeah. I haven't had a lot of experience of Twitch streaming itself, so if I've missed something, I apologize. I'm mostly focused on talking about the game. GHPC mugs.
There's a merch store, actually.
There is.
Funny enough.
Do you have the link handy for that from
I can
the
get it.
yeah. So we haven't talked about it a lot, but we do have a merch store, and we occasionally add new designs to it. There's a link to it in the Discord. I suppose if Kavi drops the link here as well. Yeah, so there's a few posters and shirts you can get there. We'll be adding more at some point. That, I guess that's number 4. That a small portion of that goes to us as well. Obviously, Redbubble takes the main cut because, the shirts aren't free. But a little bit of that goes to us as well. Harry, incredibly, the main website has no link to it.
I saw it.
Yeah, you're talking a lot of smack for somebody who's on hiatus from the project, aren't you? Anyway, when will we get branded thongs? Jared, that's a very on-brand question. Thank you. We'll see.
When do you want branded thongs, Jer?
Let's
DM
see.
me. It's me and you. Talk.
Yeah, you can talk to Kavi about the thongs. That's fine by me. What else? I feel like there was something. Okay. Russian bot. I have a question for Action Scripter. I have an answer. Does the new vegetation like bushes usually spawn BMP1? No, it does not. There's some kind of thing going on. I wonder if I can find the scene when it comes up. I posted a screenshot of the new vegetation on Patreon the other day, and somebody saw a vehicle in a bush, and there have been so many theories about what it is. I've heard Bob Semple. I've heard BMP1. I've heard Leopard 1.
Don't reveal.
Why not
Patron,
reveal?
There's a patron Q&A after this.
Oh, there is a patron Q&A.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Okay, this is a good time to mention. If you're a patron of the project and you have your Discord account linked so you get your extra roles in Discord, we do after streams or voice calls every time there's a stream. So when we're done here, we will immediately go on to Discord and do another Q&A, and that's where we show the spicy stuff when there is some to show and where we have more direct interaction. So that's another perk you get. There's a lot of little benefits of being a supporter of the project on Patreon, one of which is direct access to the team and early access to information. That's always fun. We've shown a lot of stuff to patrons much earlier than the general public. And so even though you still have to wait the same amount of time for it, you at least know that it's coming earlier. That's fun, I think. Lithuanian crew voices win. Ha. Crew voices, we're actually still getting our actors sorted out for Russian and German voices. So if you are a native speaker of German especially, we need in the short term, or Russian, and you think you have the acting chops to do a crew member role, get in contact with us. You can use the email on the website, GunnerHeatPC.com. I believe it's info@GunnerHeatPC.com. Send us an email, say that you're interested in voice work, and we'll send you an audition prompt. And I have to qualify this because voice acting is one of those things where everybody with a microphone thinks that they can be a voice actor. It's unfortunately not true. You need to be able to convey the mood properly and to enunciate, and you have to have clear recording equipment. There's a lot of stuff that needs to go right. I've had actual crewmen send auditions and they still weren't quite right, because even having actually done the job doesn't guarantee that you'll be able to put yourself in that headspace on demand. It is very much an acting skill as well. All that to say, if you think you have what it takes and you want to help with Russian or German crew voices, send us an email and we'll see if we can get that lined up.
I have level 2 German in Duolingo. Do I qualify?
Native speakers only. Sorry. We've had somebody attempt to submit a Russian audition where they were very clearly not a native speaker, and that was a good try. We appreciated that, but it's not going to work.
I've taken 4 years of German. Do I qualify? Action.
You, Coffee, maybe as an Easter egg, but not as a main voice. Question for action scripter. Send you a DM. Blah blah blah. Okay. I'm not going to talk about specific conversations with specific people, especially on stream. If you want to know if your friend sent something, ask your friend. That's all I can say about that. All right. Josh Basuito crew voice DLC. When I was testing, I put my own voice in there. And in the old demo, I don't know if you guys... Some of you may have played the 2019 era pre-alpha where there was a very calm Josh voice in there. On the way.
On the way. Tip.
Identified. Yeah, so that... Yeah, I've been in the game. I don't need to be in the game again unless I get bored and want to record a whole screaming voice set. We'll see.
I look forward to being in the game. I look forward to dying in the game. When we have Gore in the game, I want to see me dead.
Harry. No, Mom, I want my 10 days later on game developing. Oh, yeah, I really did have the voice like I was trying to be quiet and not wake anybody up. Which, by the way, if you send an audition for a voice, please record it at a time or place where you can yell, because you have to yell for the role. You're speaking over interior sound, and in the heat of combat, don't send us a recording you did at 2 a.m. hunched over your computer like, gunner, tank, because it's not going to work. You have to showcase your actual ability. So wait till someone's out of the house or something.
This is our acting advice to you. Emote.
Yes.
Go full into it.
Be energetic. Sell it, because the game has to sell it as well. The emotion. Okay. Give us your best dying voice. Yes, exactly. Magak 6 or 7 are coming ever. They're M60s on steroids. Well, minus, as I said earlier, we add vehicles when they make sense for a scenario or a theater of war. So, if we ever add a scenario where Israel, in a time period when they use the Magak 6 or 7, is present, then we would add those vehicles. Right now we're doing Fulda 1985, so you're not going to see any Israeli tanks for now.
I do like that idea.
Yep.
I like a lot of ideas, both realistic and semi-fictional. Or like, right, like this one here, Fulda is Cold War gone hot. Like, what adjustments can we make to other conflicts to make something reasonable in other areas that could have popped off? That would be awesome.
Yeah. Shock Troop mentioning that the screaming is hilarious but kind of annoying. Yeah, if you get too annoyed, you can actually turn it down or turn it off. There's a separate volume slider for voices, because I knew that would be an issue. Someone asked if we have vehicles with auto tracking. Auto tracking is a computerized fire control system feature from the 2000s-ish and the modern era. We're doing this 1985 themed situation for our demo, so that's not going to be a thing for a while. The same thing if you have questions about when are we going to see the M1A2, for example. The M1A2 was made in 2000-ish, 98, somewhere, I don't know, late 90s. We're not there yet. That's not going to make an appearance for a while. We would have to make a theater that's involving modern U.S. Army equipment in order for the M1A2 to show up. So no CITV, Commander's Thermals. You won't see it for a while. Will using ATGMs be voiced? I don't know about the specific things that you noted there, but everything will be voiced as far as is reasonable. Not every single thing that everybody does, but enough to make it sound good. So probably no T-55 Drazd. Yeah, that was barely used and not in Germany. So exactly, it's not going to show up here. What about normal commander independent sights like on the Soviet vehicles? Good question. That's one of the things that I've been working on behind the scenes, is getting commander's optics set up. We have to do a little bit of lead work on this because we're not just going to throw in a generic view. Every optic is the same. I'm sure you can think of some places that's been done. We want to have the optics be correct, just like the gun sights. So we have the Soviet, the common optic reticle, the I can't remember the name of it. I don't remember the GRU designations, but anyway, we have the Soviet reticles, we have the American ones. We have to make all of those, and then we can put them in the game. So any vehicle that has a commander's cupola sight that you can rotate around and look with, those will be in. If you could designate from that view and slew the turret, that will be in as well. We're just working on that in the background. It's not quite ready yet, and so just like everything else, we try not to show things too early. Is co-op multi-crew a possibility in the long run? Yeah, that's actually one of the first types of multiplayer we want to try to get in. The game is going to be mostly co-op focused, and multi-crew is a good type of co-op gameplay. I think it'll be pretty compelling. I'm excited for that. Somebody asked if I could go over what we've been doing. I did that early in the stream, but I will summarize again very quickly. We've been working on a lot of systems under the hood that are not extremely visible in order to let us do more gameplay stuff later. So we're trying to bring the demo out of this kind of tech demo phase where it's just vehicles and fixed scenarios, and we're trying to move it to something more dynamic with a campaign mode and replayability. And in order to do that, we had to change our mission system, the way that it actually works in the code. That's been my major project for the last cycle, and that's done now. We're working on getting the actual content finished for that. So you'll have new missions that have some dynamic elements and randomization to them. You'll have, I think, changes to old missions, unless I'm wrong. I think that was a thing that Lancer was working on. And that's the first little step. That's the first glimpse of something that's not always the same. You can memorize the whole game and then never play it again. Things will change each time you play a mission. There will be stuff that wasn't there before, or things that are out of place go a little differently. There will be vehicles that behave differently in specific missions. They have custom AI settings. A lot of stuff that wasn't possible in the past or currently in the demo will start to show up. And all of this is in service of this goal that we're working toward of having missions that affect each other and having your performance change the future of the campaign and what missions show up or how they're laid out. And it'll eventually be a game. It'll be not just drive a tank around and do a scenario, but actually something with a coherent narrative to it. And that will be a fun time. All these is this coming questions. Yeah, well, it's understandable, right? If you think about other tank games that are popular right now, the major thing that changes in those games between patches is new vehicles. They have their game loop already done. Their game, its identity, the way it plays is all set, and they add new vehicles. We have the opposite situation. We have some vehicles, but the game itself isn't defined completely. We're still making the game proper. And until we finish that, I think we're going to have this situation where people look at the project and they approach it like the other games. We have to get more stuff done so that the identity of Gunner Heat PC defines itself, and then you look at it and say, oh, okay, it wouldn't make sense to ask about this because it's not about that. But right now, it's a little bit more of a blank slate. When you look at it, you say, oh, this could be like that. You know, it might be like this game that I have experience with. Yeah. What vehicles are you going to add this patch? And it's understandable. There's not enough context yet for people to know that that's not
right.
The way it works.
But, that being said, it's about 1.
Yes.
So, we do need to get off of the stream now.
Sad. That is sad. Okay, so, Patreon supporters, we'll catch you on the Discord stream after this. I want to thank everybody again for coming to the stream. I know we were fairly light on teaser content because, like I said, all of our work in this past cycle has been under the hood for the most part and getting ready for the future, but that's how it goes. Development isn't always an exciting ride. It's like a roller coaster. It goes up and then down. We will be answering more questions and talking to people in the Patreon room on Discord. Catch you guys there. And if you want to join the fun next time and support the project, patreon.com/GunnerHeatPC. That is, once again, our only source of funding, and that is how we're doing all of this.
Major source of funding.
I guess my savings account works too, but I'd rather not dip into that too much, just personal preference. So anyway, yeah, support the project if you can. We really appreciate it, and we will catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.